Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to ArchiHacks, and today we have another very exciting tutorial. We're going to be creating the diagram that you're seeing on the screen right over here, and there's a lot of goodness happening. We have this very clean black and white illustration that is in vector format, and also it'll have all these kind of interesting elements that are floating around the screen. This tutorial is going to be very beginner friendly. I'll take you step by step and show you tips and tricks to save time, avoid mistakes, and optimize your workflow in general. So if you guys are ready, let's dive right into it. And all you need for this is Rhino and Illustrator. So here's a very basic Rhino scene. Our site is located in this city block, and what we want to do is we want to populate the surrounding area to give this building a little bit more context. And to make this easier, I made this little package you can download for free in the link below. Okay, so if you import this pack, you will see the following geometries. So as you can see, there are 4 templates for the buildings, and there are little things like billboard, water tower, and the exit staircase. So what you want to do with these guys is that you can just simply copy them over to your location and then just array them over on top of another one. So for example, this one, I'll type in array. Type in 1 for X, 1 for Y, and for Z, I will put in 11. And then I will drag top to bottom. Floor to floor is 3.3 meters, so you can create them in a very regular pattern like this. Okay, and you can repeat the process with any of the other blocks, and you'll have a lot of interesting buildings to play with. So I'm gonna, for these guys, I'm gonna array 1, 1, and then put 22 so that we can have the flexibility to delete some of these. Okay, so for this one, let me just delete a whole bunch, even more for this one. And what you might want to do is you should block these guys so that they don't take up as much of your bandwidth. I have a shortcut key for block, Control B. And by the way, if you want to use my shortcut keys, you can also download them from the link in the description. It'll be called Rhino Options. And what's cool about the Rhino Options is that it also includes many cool things such as this dark mode UI. So if you want to install that, you can also go ahead and get it from there. Okay, so I'm going to start copy and pasting these buildings over to an adjacent site. Okay, and what's cool about these building blocks is that since they are completely modular, I can also explode them and then just take a couple of them and put them together. So for maybe this little building over here, I will have a building that starts off like that in the bottom, but maybe turn into this nice residential building up top. Something like that. So you can make some really interesting combinations. And okay, cool. So now we have a pretty decent looking, a little bit cartoonish, but this kind of gives you a very conceptual look, so it's actually kind of nice on its own. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this outline of the block, and I'm going to extrude it downwards. And I'm going to make sure this is a solid piece by clicking over here. And I'm going to type in 0.15 for the height of the sidewalk. Okay, so that gave it a little bit of thickness. And I'm gonna select this entire city block and block it. Control B again, or you can type in block into your command. Okay, once that's ready, we can start copying them over. And boom, we have a pretty interesting city block right away. And I'm gonna start flipping some of these around to give it a more random look. For this one, I'm gonna rotate it 180, and I can do the same thing for these guys. So this one, I'll turn this 180, and then turn this one 180, and I'm gonna reflect this one just like so. Okay, cool. Now there is a bit of a repetition if you see it from afar. So you might want to just like zoom in your camera in just a little bit like that, so that you don't see too many of the repetition. Another cool thing you can do to reduce repetition is by using these little elements. So for example, I'm going to take this billboard, copy it from its base, and then put it right over this building here. And I can start doing that across the site to give it a little bit more organic look. For this one, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, place it over there. Probably want it to be the other way around. And as mentioned before, these are completely free to download, so make sure to head over to the link in the description and get a copy for yourself. And for the staircase, this is also interesting. You can simply array this above as well, and then it should snap right into place. Now we have a very tall staircase created within a few seconds. So let me copy this over and put this into the back street over there. Okay, I'm gonna place it right over here. And let me rotate this 90 degrees. You can make this as precise as you want. I will try to do this a little bit roughly, but fast. And yeah, you can simply delete the modules that you don't need. Okay. That looks okay for me. As you can see, there's an obvious problem. This building is intersecting with our actual project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explode this city block and remove this set of building right over there. And for this one over here, I'm just going to shift it over just a little bit. I said there's a bit of a collision as well, so I'm going to push this back to make it look a little bit more natural. Okay, nice. So now our building is placed right in the middle of a city block. And I think I might want to rotate this side context to improve visibility of our project. Okay, nice. That looks pretty good. Now what we have to do is simply... Okay, before we get there, I'm going to hide all these curves. So I'm going to type in the command cell curve. And then I'm going to hit Control H to hide them. The command for this is simply hide. Okay, once your context is ready, I'm going to select what's visible here. So I will type in cell visible. If I just press enter from here, it should select everything that is visible on my screen right now. Okay, I'm going to save this view and call it perspective so that we can always come back to this later. Okay, before we go, I'm going to make 2D, but this can sometimes take a really long time. So you might want to save your project before you proceed. So I'm going to type in save. One thing that might be really helpful is make sure that your project is on a separate layer so that it'll be easier to highlight this in a bit. Okay, now it's the moment of truth. Let's type in make 2D and make sure our setting is looking good. I'm going to remove group output and scene silhouette will be disabled. And I might actually even enable viewport rectangle. And then for object properties, I'm going to maintain source layers so that we can distinguish them down the road. This process could take a little while, so I'm going to fast forward until we're done. Okay, finally our make 2D is complete, so I'm going to go ahead and flip this over to plan. Now there are many lines in the scene, so everything is slowing down quite a bit. Okay, now that we have the outline of the whole project, I'm actually going to right click on this layer over here and then select objects. And before we export it to Illustrator, I want to create an outline around this. And to do so, I'm going to type in curve boolean and click anywhere outside of our whole object. And as you can see, it created a nice outline around our project, and I'll hit enter. Now as you can see, we have an outline around our project. Now let me just make sure that this is on a distinguishable layer, and I'll select everything and export it as Illustrator. Type in export and choose the Illustrator format and write over this file. And since we're exporting a perspective, we don't need to do a scale. So the snapshot of the current view and export it. Now that the file's been exported, I'm going to open it up in Illustrator. Okay, here's our file. And everything's looking quite small, but before we get started, I'm gonna make sure that our paper dimension is correct. So for example, if you're printing this, you might want to make sure that the dimensions are the paper that you're printing with. So if you're printing it with on a letter paper, you might want to choose letter here. And for me, I'm just gonna view this on a digital surface. So I'm gonna choose 920p by 1080 right there. Then I'll hit OK. Okay, now that we made sure that this is the size that we want the whole illustration to be, I can scale this up to make sure it fills up the space. Maybe stylistically, I might want to have some outline showing, so I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller than the canvas itself. And then to center this, I'm going to Control X to cut it. Center the canvas by typing in Control 0. And then paste it by Control V. Now once you do so, the illustration gets perfectly centered.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
So before we copy and paste everything, I want to go over to the Layers tab over here, and then click on this little burger icon, and make sure you enable Paste Remembers Layers. If you don't enable this like I did, when you copy and paste everything, all the line work will end up on the same layer as opposed to going to the respective layers that they started with. Okay, great. Now that we know that this is the size we will see the illustration, the line weight is going to be an issue. Everything's looking a little too thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything, then reduce the stroke width to 0.25 and set the color to black. Now make sure you're selecting the stroke side over here like that, and then choose the color. You can either pick it from the color picker over here, and if you select away, as you can see, the line weight and the color has been applied to the scene. So right now our building is blending in with the context. So what I want to do is I want to go back and find that outline that we created earlier. And you can do so by going over to the Layers tab. And by the way, if you don't see layers, you can get it from Window and Layer right over here. Now I'm going to start by increasing the line weight by 0.5 point. And as you can see, our building is already a lot more visible. 0.25 is nice and elegant, but we're not going to be zooming in to see all the lines. So what I want to do is I'm going to take everything and increase their weights by 0.5 point. So let's go to 0.5 and see how that looks. Okay, that looks a little bit more visible. And I'm going to take the outer line and then increase it to 1 point. Okay, that's looking pretty good. There's a weird line sticking out over here, so I'm gonna cut this. So to access the scissors tool over here, I typed in C on the keyboard, and now what you can do is you can simply click on this line to break the line into 2 pieces. I'll hit delete twice to remove all segments, and I will choose this white arrow tool by hitting the keyboard shortcut A to adjust individual line endings like that. Now I think I might want to actually increase the weight just a little bit. That makes it a lot more visible. And I'll take all the other lines and reduce their darkness to something a little bit lighter. And by the way, to select all the lines on that layer, you can just click on this little empty spot next to the layer, and you should be able to select everything. Okay, I'm gonna actually make the line really light and hit OK. Okay, that's not too bad. I'm gonna make a copy of this layer by dragging and dropping it into the Layer tab. And I'm gonna send one to the top to make sure that this line is drawn over everything. But I wanted another copy at the bottom so that we can give it a fill color. So I'm gonna go ahead and click over to the Foreground tab over here, and then choose a color that I want this building to have. And now this is totally up to you to play around. Give it some interesting color and style until you find something that you like. I think for me, I'm just gonna keep it black and white, but maybe give it like a black and white inversion effect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lock the top and bottom layer like so. And then, okay, great. So for me, I'm gonna take the lines that are within our building and make it totally white. And I'll take the background color and make it black. And as you can see, we have a very sleek illustration happening already. I have a feeling that the lines are a little too thin right now, so I'm gonna go back and select all the lines that represent the floors. And I'm gonna give it a line weight of maybe 0.75. And boom. Now we have this very charismatic black and white diagram. Now, this part is totally optional, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a more interesting flair by adding diagrammatic elements provided by Land Space Architecture. You can also download this from the link in the description. And this also helps us create more contents like this, so make sure to check it out. So what I want to use for this pack is I might want to take some drones, let's say. Everything is nice and grouped. And maybe I'll even take this little hand over here and copy it over. There we go. And immediately it adds so much life to the scene. I'm gonna reduce this drone object slightly. And I actually kind of enjoy how like they're sticking out of the frame like that. So what I might want to do is I'm gonna increase the size of our canvas like that, to give it a more quirky, breaking the fourth wall kind of effect. Okay, so if you're creating a project that is like very, fourth industrial revolution oriented, very high tech with a drone technology, this pack might be really useful. And as you can see, this pack comes with a lot of interesting elements. So these speech bubbles are really useful for creating annotations without disrupting the flow, and gives it a very playful vibe. So what I could do is maybe reduce the size by just a little bit and maybe put it over here. You can really customize your drawing to make it seem a lot more fun and enjoyable. So at this point, what I might want to do is I want to lock all the layers that I've been working on so that we can solely focus on the annotation layer, like so. Now, one of the caveats that I'm seeing is that now that we are zooming out a lot more, the paper size has gotten bigger. The lines that comprise the context building are becoming harder and harder to see. So what I might want to do is I might want to increase the weight of those lines. So let's try 0.75. And that's a lot better. So yeah, make sure to be conscious about the line weights and the size of your canvas. This is one of the most common mistakes I've seen in beginner portfolio. I might even try using that for our building over here. And then you can also use these phone elements and you can replace what goes inside. So I'm going to copy this over and put this down here. And what I would do is actually I want to take a screenshot of this whole thing over here like that. And then I'll paste it into the illustration over here. So if you want to replace what's inside the phone or the laptop or tablet in this pack, you can continuously click into that image until you see the whole image. And from here, you can paste your image that you want to put in there and simply place it. So what I might want to do is I'm going to put it over here. Reduce the opacity temporarily just to see what's visible. And let me just reduce the size to make it fit. Okay, once it's in the right place, I'm gonna restore the opacity back to 100% and click anywhere outside to make it clip in the mask again. And it's that easy to create this phone screen effect. And this pack doesn't end here. There's also laptop, tablet, and some alcoholism going on over here, as well as some airplane view. So you can be really creative with these. The application for this pack is limitless, so I strongly recommend you check this out and grab one for yourself while you can. Anyways, with these pack, just immediately you can add so much life into the scene and makes your drawing look so much more developed. And there we go. Hope you guys found this useful. I hope you're excited to make new visualization for your project and dazzle everyone at your next presentation. So that being said, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye now.